Hello, hello, and welcome back to Every Day with Dr. DeJoy. I'm excited to be here on today with you as we come back together on Monday. Whew, man, what a weekend. And I'm excited to be able to kind of share some of the things that's been going on with me over the weekend. And I hope you come join in on the conversation that we're getting ready to start. But welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking the truth about healing, purpose, and sometimes just the messy, beautiful parts of just being a human being, right? On today's episode, we're more going to focus in on some personal things and even maybe some tender things to some as we talk about, letting go of those past hurts and pains that we're dealing with. And the conversation many of us try to avoid. I'm going to tell you, we do until life pulls us straight into it. We have no choice but to deal with it. So we're going to talk about that today. And it mainly focuses on the after effects of hard decisions, especially the ones that hit us in later years. And so I want to begin with something that happened to me this past week. Before I get in that, I want to make sure I just say hello to everybody. I don't even think I said a good hello. How you doing? Checking in, making sure you're okay, all is well. I know there's a lot of chaos going on in the world today, I'm telling you. But man, the first thing that we can get right is ourselves, right? And just begin to focus in on where we're at and what's going on with us. But listen, I want to begin to talk about something that happened last week, and it was impromptu. It really was, it kind of took me back. I attended a funeral recently. It was my boss's mother. And I'm telling you, it was a funeral that took me back in time. And as I sat there, listening to her life and her laughter, her legacy, even as I watched, not just her daughters, crying, but her grandchildren and great grandchildren. And they weren't just sniffling, they weren't just, little, they were crying for the life of their grandmother, their Gigi. And it just, oh my gosh, it was just so, one is just moving, right? Anytime you go to a funeral, it's going to be moving. But I found myself unexpectedly pulled back into a space I thought I had already healed from. And my own mother, who passed away over 23 years ago, I thought that was healed. I thought I was okay with it, going to the services. So I never thought about, oh, I don't want to go because I might feel a certain way or it might make me, I didn't think of any of that. But the grief, I thought I had already kind of folded up and ironed and put that away in a drawer quietly. It just quietly rose up again on the inside of me. And I'm telling you that thing about grief. And many of us experience, I know I'm not the only one, but it doesn't ask for permission when it comes in. It just kind of shows up when it wants to. It's tender, loud, and it's very familiar to many of us. Because as I talked to another friend who had a friend that lost their mom as well at the same time, it's just something about that relationship. You remember them, you go back, but it's in that moment, man, that grief just pops up on you. And as I was sitting in that sanctuary and I remembered the decisions, my brother and I had to make, and my father at the time my mother passed, I never expected to make them one so soon. It's like nothing prepares you in life to make these decisions until they come upon you, right? Talking about cremation or a casket, as I sat there and I watched everything and I thought, man, this service was a casket service. And I thought, oh man, just I've been to cremations, I've been to caskets, and either one, both of them are sad. There's no, one better than the other. That's not what it is. It's just the emotional impact of both of them. And I tell you, as the sisters went up to the casket, and all three of them, all four of them, would have their hands on the casket. And the funeral director had guided them to do this. But I mean, that thing, when they, before them, began to close down, because they were the last to see their mother again, and they closed that casket down, I'm telling you, something on the inside of me broke. And I thought, oh my God, I did not expect that to rise up on the inside of me. But when you've lost a parent, or you've lost somebody very close to you, grief will sneak up on you at the last. You don't even know it's coming. It just comes upon you. So, that those kind of questions come into play. Do we do cremation? Do we do casket? If there's already a living will or a will out there that already kind of specifies that, that helps out tremendously, right? Will it be closed or open service? You have these things that you think about. What songs feel like the right heartbeat, of your mother or that person that passed away? And what flowers, kind of smell like that person? You think just all these decisions, very hard decisions that you have to make in that moment. And you just think, wow, just the things you have to go through. You never forget the weight of those decisions that you make in those moments. Even years later, they live in your chest like a soft bruise, right? You learn how to breathe again in the release. And I'm telling you something about those moments when you begin to cry. It's almost like a release that you have on the inside of you that breaks. And there's healing. There's almost like healing in those moments, even though it feels so emotional. Your chest is tight. You feel this overwhelm. But there's something about that. It just feels that emotion behind it. I tell you, we talk about cremation versus casket and the decisions we don't talk about enough, right? Even myself, I'm thinking maybe I should make some decisions about that. Do I want to do cremation? Do I want to do caskets? And really, no one really prepares you for how heavy those choices are as you're going through. No one warns you that even after you make those things, that there'll be a replay of them in your mind. They'll continue to go back in your mind, and you wonder, did I choose right? Would she have wanted or he have wanted something different? Did that moment really honor them, or did I rush because I was overwhelmed? I was too caught up in those moments. And you begin to think of those things, right? You think of all of that. But I think we rarely talk about those pressures that we carry even after someone passes. There's pressures there. I remember, the first time I called my dad after my mom passed, and I heard her voice on the message machine. Something inside me broke again. It was quiet. I wasn't expecting it. And hear her voice on the message broke me. I immediately began to cry, right? And I just think in those moments that we're crying are really moments of healing, really moments of restoration on the inside of us. And I believe it's a process. I don't believe the healing comes all at once. I honestly believe that those times and those moments are healing processes that we go through, right? And so, because we rarely talk about them and those pressures really build up, sometimes we don't know who to talk to. And I'm telling you, this quiet, private responsibility that you have on the inside of you to do the right thing by them is so important. It's so vital. It's so tangible on the inside of you. Because once you're gone, or once we're gone, we think about what's left behind. What's left behind. And I thought about this woman's life, and I never met my friend's mother, but this just seems like the memories were so vivid. The people held on to, she was the mother of the church. She blessed people. She blessed her children, the impact that she made in her life. And you think about the love that she poured out, not just to her family, her daughters, but her grandchildren, her church, or the members. I mean, she just poured herself out. You think, the stories people will tell when our name comes up unexpectedly, you wonder, what will they say, right? And funerals have this way of making us reevaluate our own lives too. Who will speak for me? What will they remember about me out of all the things that happened in my life? What legacy? You think about that. What legacy am I creating right now in my life? It's very sobering, right? It's very you become very sober, realizing this is a reality that all of us will face, but also clarifying at the same time. The group that just got done finishing the pursuit had a lot of questions, really hard decisions that needed to be made as they made that study and they worked through that study, because at the end of the day, we have to make the decision that we will leave this life and go on to the next. And the question is, what decision will you make, right? Because it's not a matter of forcing you to do anything or forcing you to prepare for the next life. But the question really is for all of us, what hard decision will you make? Will I follow Christ, or will I leave my own life or even go back to my old life? Why? Because it was familiar to me. I'm used to it. But following Christ is not hard. It's just different. It's just different. But the question we talk about, and the question that still stands, even in making that hard decision, that you have to ask yourself, what will we leave behind? right? What we leave behind that goes beyond the ceremony, that goes beyond all of the chaos that may occur. But at their funeral, going back to my friend's mother, they talked about, her kindness, her faithfulness, because she was a believer, she was a Christian, her cooking, her laughter, that filled the room, the things that she did and the changes that she made by her presence. And I realized something. When our bodies are gone, when the decisions have been made, when the ceremony has ended, the only thing truly left is our impact. What impact are we making? We don't get to choose how people remember us. We choose how we live, and that becomes the memory, right? That becomes the memory. From grief to growth is really what we do. Even when I think about my books and even my own calling, and all this, the things that have happened in my own life, all of this made me think really deeply about the messages I put into the world, about the books that I write and that God has given me to write. And, we just released a book, Billionaire versus Curvy Poet. And this one really speaks to second chances, unexpected love, and two imperfect people learning to rewrite their stories. And a lot of my books do go to that type of trope where we talk about that. But this book is a little bit different because there's a lot of secrecy in dealing with somebody that you're going to love or your love or you may like a lot, right? And we deal with that. We deal with the secrecies. We deal with the character of people that are unfamiliar to us, but there's something drawing us to that individual. It's not just romance, really. It's a redemption wrapped in fiction, although but it makes you think, right? A reminder that even in life's chaos, love has a way of finding the cracks and pouring itself in like light. I mean, it shines brightly in us because it stays in our memory. We think about it over and over again. There's something about, the romance and connecting with somebody unexpectedly that does something on the inside of us that causes us to be drawn to them, to pour ourselves out into them and find out they have a secret. Oh my goodness, they have a secret. And so get that book, Billionaire versus the Curvy Poet. It just came out, just released. It's on Amazon and other book areas. But I'm really excited about that book. It really makes you think about relationships. It makes you think about your own relationship, really. And then the other book that I have come out, and this is a Christian book, it's a Beautifully Broken, and it really deals with broken hearts. When you lose somebody, your heart is broken. I don't care how the service was, or you believe your heart is broken. There's a wound there that needs to be healed. There's hurt, there's pain, and you have to go through that process of dealing with that, right? Dealing with the brokenness, dealing with the pain. And so Beautifully Broken really talks about how on the outside we look really good. We're beautiful on the outside, but there's a brokenness on the inside. It's a novel as well as I got a devotional that goes with it because I feel like that's a process there. It's a process there. So there's an 18-week devotional that goes with it. And it really dives into my healing and my questions and really my surrender on this journey of letting God rebuild what life tries to break. Because I'm telling you, life will try to break us. And I remember this Sunday, Pastor was talking about, I'm like, did he read my book? He was talking about broken hearts. He's talking about being broken and how we have to go back and rebuild. There's a rebuilding that we have to do in that. So for anyone who is, trying to find themselves again or healing from any loss or into somebody into the studio, I see you there. But I can't read your name, and I really don't want to mess up your name because I've had folks mess up mine. But if you have something to add to that, I'd really like to hear it. You're not forced to, you don't have to, but you're really welcome to. Well, it's good to have you. Thank you for the heart. Look, for anyone who is trying to find themselves again, healing from loss or just carrying pain they don't talk about, because a lot of us do, learning to love yourself again through the process, forgiving yourself, because a lot of that in rebuilding is forgiving of ourselves from the inside out. This book and the companion to devotional is really for you, and I believe you'll be encouraged by it as you get it and read it. I believe when you do attend the workshop, I do give it away free because it really is a part of that process of rebuilding yourself and trying to find your way. Even as what you want to become. If you want to become a writer, if you want to do it as a hobby, or you want to do it as a business, there's something about writing that really releases you and really opens you up to healing. There's something about it, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It really has opened me to release some things I never thought I would before. So, look, if you're listening today and you're carrying that grief or that guilt or a stack of decisions that you're still second guessing and wanting to make, you're not broken. You're just rebuilding. You're just rebuilding, and that's a process. That's definitely is a process. Sometimes healing doesn't look like strength. Sometimes healing looks like you're sitting at a funeral and feeling something you didn't expect to feel, like I was crying and sobbing in the moment. And look, that's okay. Let yourself feel it. Let God meet you in it, and let your life become the legacy you want remembered. It's all about being your authentic self and being who you are. It really is. So, look, thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for the heart. Thank you for the encouragement. But this is for you. If today's episode has touched you, share it with someone who is grieving, rebuilding, or just needs a reminder that they're not alone. They're not alone. So if you want a deeper encouragement, grab my book, Billionaire versus Curvy Poet. The link is in the comment section. It's a love story full of hope, or Beautifully Broken is a devotional for rebuilding seasons, right? And we have those seasons of rebuilding. So until next time, take a deep breath, give yourself grace, and remember, healing isn't a destination, it's a journey back to yourself. Look, have a wonderful week. Until next time we meet, I'll try to be back tomorrow. But until we meet again, have a wonderful, wonderful day and be blessed.